Welcome to this Common Sense Skeptic presentation. This video is a segment taken from our series called Debunking Elon Musk TED Talk 2022. We are re-releasing it as a standalone piece because on November 30th of 2022, Musk and the team at Neuralink again trotted out their dog and pony show, well, pig and monkey show, to update people as to the progress being made at Neuralink. What they managed to prove instead was that very little progress has been made at all. And since we covered all things Neuralink in our 5-part Debunking Musk series just a few months ago, we decided to break this segment out into its own video to make it easier to share the information that we have already produced. We pick it up at the 3-minute mark of Part 2, following statements Musk made about how Neuralink is supposedly being created to save humanity from the existential threat of AI. So here we go with Part 2, and we're going to continue from the point where Musk was telling Chris Anderson how he was trying to save the world from rogue artificial intelligence he's trying to create, specifically so that his disposable battery-powered cars will eventually be able to drive themselves.
Are we gonna have to cut that?
And his solution for this supposed existential crisis? Drilling a Fitbit into your brain.
The idea behind Neuralink is to try to more tightly couple the collective human world to digital superintelligence. And also along the way solve a lot of brain injuries and spinal injuries and that kind of thing. Even if it doesn't succeed in the greater goal, I think it will succeed in the goal of alleviating brain and spine damage.
Yep, you heard that right. Musk is operating under several delusions when it comes to Neuralink. The first is that Neuralink is somehow going to bridge a gap between humans and AI, which will prevent AI from going rogue by connecting human brains to a digital superintelligence. But even if they don't pull that off, they will just have to settle for fixing brain and spine damage as a lesser goal. Which has to make the people working at Neuralink feel like they're wasting their life working for Musk, because that lesser goal is the only thing the original founders and PhDs at Neuralink are working on. In the beginning, there were 8 people, other than Musk, all of them experts in their respective field, that co-founded Neuralink. We covered this in a 2-part episode just after Musk's Neuralink presentation in 2020, with episodes entitled Who is Neuralink and What is Neuralink. All but 2 of the original founders have jumped ship to get clear of what the Byte reports to be an absolute disaster of a company. The declared intention of the company from the outset was this: to create a BMI, brain-machine interface, that would allow amputees to control prosthetics with their minds. And of course, this is not a new field of study, so Musk had to add 100 levels of nonsense to spur interest in this project.
The spirit there is that if we're going to make these AIs that are so vastly intelligent, we ought to be wired directly to them so that we ourselves can have those superpowers more directly.
There's so much wrong with not just these statements, but the implications of what was said. First off, machines do not have intelligence. They process data, they have amazing processing speed, but they have programs, they have algorithms, even predictive algos, but the I in AI is intelligence, and machines are not there yet, nor are they likely to be anytime soon. And yet, Anderson seems to be convinced that this brain interface connection with an AI will somehow endow humans with superpowers. Wonder where he got that idea from.
You could have ultraviolet or infrared, see in radar, name your frequency, and actually have superhuman vision.
Let's back up a minute and bring in the voice of an expert in the field who knows what the hell they're talking about in the field of BMIs. Dr. Miguel Nicolelis, the mentor of Neuralink's original president Max Hodak, when Hodak worked as his research assistant for 4 years, pulls absolutely no punches when it comes to Musk.
People like Elon Musk, who has a faint idea where the brain is located. He barely knows where it is located, but he thinks that he knows what brain-machine interface is capable of doing or not doing. For instance, I can assure you, you are not going to download your brain to a CD-ROM and give it to your mom or to your kids. You are not going to learn French by uploading French grammar directly to your brain. That's what he promised would happen. No, it's not going to happen at all.
Nicolelis is a world-renowned scientist, physician, and Duke School of Medicine professor in neuroscience at Duke University, best known for his pioneering work surrounding brain-machine interface technology, which is why their neurology lab is named after him. He retired from Duke last year on July 1st, about a month after he tore his strip off Musk in this article published on Inverse calling Neuralink bad science fiction. This pioneer in neuroscience does not consider Neuralink remotely innovative and criticizes Neuralink on 2 big points: lacking innovation and copying other researchers' work, and making promises it can't keep. And Nicolelis can certainly back up his claims of plagiarism. In April of 2012, Nicolelis did a presentation featuring a monkey who was using her mind to control a robot arm. The computer controlling the arm was monitoring the monkey as it played a simple video game to read brain patterns versus physical movement. This video is dated 2003. And where did Nicolelis make this presentation? At TEDMed 2012. Part of the 2012 presentation showed how the monkey in the US was moving this entire robot with their mind in Kyoto, Japan in 2007 for a paper published in 2009. Now keep all these facts in mind, including that Max Hodak, president at Neuralink, was Nicolelis' RA from 2008 to 2012 with a 1-year break, and follow this timeline. April 8th of 2021, Neuralink, a company with Nicolelis' former research assistant sitting in the president's chair, releases a video of a monkey named Pager playing simple video games with his mind, replicating Nicolelis' experiment from 2003. The world loses their collective minds at this groundbreaking work being done now at Neuralink. May 1st, 2021, Hodak informs a shocked Twitter that he, the company president, left Neuralink a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago would have been around April 8th. May 27th, 2021, Nicolelis rips Musk a new asshole in an article published by Inverse, stating Mr. Musk doesn't understand a bit of neuroscience and what is the brain. He barely knows where it's located. So here's the triangle. Nicolelis was Hodak's mentor for 4 years, at the same time that Nicolelis' lab was doing early work with monkeys and BMIs for the 2009 paper. After graduating from Duke, Hodak started up Transcriptic, which he later sold in order to co-found Neuralink with Musk and 7 other people, Musk being the only person in that group not a recognized expert in their field. Now connecting the dots further following the April demo, here's what we think might have happened. April 8th, Neuralink does the presentation, ripping off Nicolelis' work. Shortly afterwards, Hodak gets a call from Nicolelis, who is not happy that his former RA has obviously aided Musk in his plagiarism of his work from 2003 and suggests very strongly that Hodak end his association with Musk and Neuralink. Max quits, quietly, announcing his unexpected departure weeks later on Twitter. It would appear that Hodak was a linchpin of the Neuralink operation because since the pager demonstration a year ago, there have been no other such demos or announcements worth noting. Without Hodak giving Neuralink the ability to do stunts like this by ripping off Nicolelis' work, the company appears to now have nothing to show. Now some people are going to say that's just a wild theory. It is, but it's one that's supported by the fact that in 2019, Nicolelis was very displeased with how Neuralink was plagiarizing the work being done at his lab. And he sent several tweets directly to Max on Twitter in response to posts that Max had made, including this one. I hope you and the guys are aware that there is a patent held by Duke which covers the entire concept of BMI. Would be nice of you to consider this, since any application of the original BMI concept is covered by that patent, it is still valid in the US. That tweet was written the day after the white paper for Neuralink was published, with Musk as the only named author on the document. Neither Hodak nor any of the other founders were mentioned even one single time in the body of that document. And Musk, a layman with a mere Bachelor of Arts in Physics, writing a scientific paper mimicking what Nicolelis had been working on for decades, obviously pissed Nicolelis off. 7 months prior to the pager demo, Nicolelis also posted this. For those who keep asking my opinion about the recent announcement from Neuralink, which would have been the pig demonstration, poor Mr. Musk sold as revolution what my lab executed first in 2007 and published in 2009. Detail, our monkey in the US controlled a robot walking in Kyoto, using our brain-machine interface. You take those public notices into account, combined with the fact that Hodak obviously ignored the warning since the pager demo was a direct rip-off of Nicolelis' work, and the pieces of our theory fall into place nicely. Finally, on a sad note about the Neuralink demonstration, there's a 65% chance that Pager, the star of the show, is dead. In February of 2022, it was widely reported that Neuralink is facing legal challenges from animal rights groups due to the fact that the animals in Neuralink's care were suffering extreme abuse, and 15 of their 23 primate test subjects succumbed to gruesome deaths. Allegations in the legal filings included monkeys missing fingers and toes due to self-mutilation, one had to be put down because the brain drilling procedure left the primate with a bloody skin infection, and one female puked herself to death. After vomiting non-stop, the animal collapsed and died from exhaustion, a necropsy showing that she had suffered a brain hemorrhage as a result of the procedure. This is the current state of Musk's Neuralink, and articles that have come out of the company since describe a hellish and toxic work environment with Musk applying relentless pressure and a culture of blame to the 200 employees at Neuralink for not making his ridiculous claims a reality. This would be a great example why for-profit companies have no business operating in the medical research industry. The goals of a for-profit business are in direct conflict with the rigors of scientific research, and yet clinical research is presently becoming more and more privatized, which cannot result in an unbiased scientific environment, and that is a subject of growing concern in the scientific community. Time for another Musk claim.
We're already a cyborg, if you think about it. Computers are an extension of ourselves.
We're already cyborgs, are we? No, we're not. And Musk obviously doesn't know what the word means. The Borg are cyborgs. Darth Vader is a cyborg. Cyborg is a cyborg. By definition, cyborg, as coined by Manfred Clynes in 1960, is a cybernetic organism made up of organic and biomechatronic parts. And the reason why these characters are cyborgs is because the person has restored function or enhanced abilities due to the integration of some artificial component or technology. The $6 Million Man is another cyborg. In fact, the 1972 novel by Martin Caidin, detailing the reconstruction of Colonel Steve Austin, was entitled Cyborg. In reality, persons with an artificial heart could be considered cyborgs. People with motorized prosthetics that they can move can call themselves cyborgs. But people using their phones on a regular basis are not cyborgs. In fact, not even Stephen Hawking can be considered a cyborg. So no, we are not already cyborgs. Moving on to the next claim.
When we die, we have like a digital ghost. It's quite eerie, actually, when someone dies and everything online is still there.
This bit is very curious. If it's eerie for Musk to have digital ghosts hanging about after someone dies, why the hell would he promote Neuralink as a device allowing someone to download their consciousness into a golem or other physical donor body? And just in case you missed that statement at the 2020 Neuralink presentation, this one's for you.
And ultimately, you could potentially download them into a new body or into a robot body. The future is going to be weird.
Have you seen evidence that the technology is actually working, that you've got a richer sort of higher bandwidth connection between external electronics and a brain than has been possible before?
The fundamental principles of reading neurons, doing read-write on neurons with tiny electrodes have been demonstrated for decades.
The entire concept is far from new. The first papers for BMIs date back to 1973.
It's not like the concept is new. The problem is that there's no product that works well that you can go and buy. It's all sort of in research labs. There's always like some cord sticking out of your head, and it's quite gruesome, and there's no good product that you could buy and would want to buy.
The very premise that normal, healthy people would want to buy these devices and have them drilled permanently into their own skull is quite frankly disturbing as hell. No matter what Musk says, carving a giant hole in someone's cranium to implant this device is going to be gruesome. Exposing your brain to air is never a good idea, and it's normally only done to treat serious conditions, such as tumors, aneurysms, brain bleeds, and fractures. The procedure is called a craniotomy. Patients who undergo craniotomies have 4 to 8 weeks of recovery to look forward to following a hospital stay of 3 to 7 days. That's according to Johns Hopkins. A list of general complications includes infection, bleeding, blood clots, pneumonia, unstable blood pressure, seizures, muscle weakness, swelling of the brain, leakage of cerebral spinal fluid, and all the risk of general anesthesia. Possible but more rare complications include memory problems, speech difficulties, paralysis, loss of balance, and coma. Also, people sometimes die from this procedure. At home during recovery for 4 to 8 weeks, expect fevers and chills, redness, swelling, drainage, or bleeding from the incision site or face, increased pain around the incision site, changes in vision, confusion, weakness, trouble with speech, trouble breathing, chest pain, anxiety, or change in mental status, green, yellow, or blood-tinged phlegm, and seizures. Drilling a hole in your head is a very risky procedure and definitely not something to be undertaken lightly. So resolve these medical realities against this claim from Musk's Neuralink presentation.
We feel confident about getting the link procedure, the installation of a link, done in under an hour. So you can basically go in the morning and leave the hospital in the afternoon. And it can be done without general anesthesia.
No.
The Neuralink device is kind of like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, where we take out a small section of skull about the size of a quarter, replace that with what in many ways really is Fitbit, Apple Watch, or some kind of smartwatch thing, with tiny wires that don't damage the brain.
He admits the technology is not new, then tries to claim the design of the device makes it more desirable than other products on the market. failing to realize that deep brain devices are considered by many to be last resort options for the people getting them installed, a necessity for quality of life. Fitbits and Apple Watches are fashion accessories for people, not a necessity of life. So comparing this device to those medical implants is absolutely unbelievable. Now, just in case you were thinking the host was going to keep a skeptical mind about the topic, he removes all doubt with this question.
How far are you from putting these into humans?
We have put in our FDA application to have operationally do the first human implant this year.
Here we go with those timelines again. Right now, Neuralink can't keep their monkeys alive. A leading expert in the field stated their device amounts to bad science fiction. But Musk tells Anderson that because they've applied for a license, that they should be able to move ahead with human trials later this year. He said this in 2019, he said it again in 2020, now here we are in 2022, and again he's not going to make good on those claims.
The first uses will be for neurological injuries of different kinds.
Yes.
Rolling the clock forward and imagining when people are actually using these for their own enhancement, let's say, and for the enhancement of the world.
It's really hard to take Chris seriously when he makes comments like this. As Nicolelis stated, this is not going to happen at all. At least Musk doesn't say any of this is going to be happening tomorrow. Although he does have visions of mall locations being set up where you can eventually have this shoved in your head in an hour without general anesthesia.
How clear are you in your mind as to what it will feel like to have one of these inside your head?
It really will be many years before we have anything approximating a high bandwidth neural interface that allows for AI-human symbiosis. At least a decade of really just solving brain injuries and spinal injuries.
Presently, he's saying at least a decade of just solving brain and spinal injuries, but then he goes off the rails again.
I think you can solve a very wide range of brain injuries, including severe depression, morbid obesity, sleep, schizophrenia, like a lot of things that cause great stress to people, restoring memory in older people.
If you can pull that off, that's the app I will sign up for.
Right back into the nonsense. The first condition he mentioned, depression, is a range of psychiatric symptoms, not a specific brain injury, although in reverse, some brain injuries can cause depression. However, as published on brainfacts.org, Neuralink won't be able to cure psychiatric brain disorders like addiction and depression. In most disorders of the brain, the injuries are far more diffuse, and there may not be a clear-cut remedy. Depression is most commonly treated with psychotherapy, antidepressants, and exercise. Morbid obesity is also not a brain injury, and it is generally treated with lifestyle changes and prescribed nutrition. For more stubborn conditions, doctors may recommend pharmacotherapy, and in extreme cases, bariatric surgery, which covers several effective but risky procedures done on the patient's digestive tract. But jumping straight to open brain surgery is not part of this regimen. And moreover, the hunger control center is located in the center of your skull in your hypothalamus. The Neuralink device, according to the diagrams published online, would be inserted at the top of your skull after a piece of the parietal bone is removed, which, by the way, compromises the integrity of your skull. Dual-pronged deep brain stimulation devices can get there, but that's a completely different procedure. Would Musk seriously have people believe that patients would be cool with having this robot sink 1,024 wires straight through their parietal lobe to get all the way down into the hypothalamus? As it is, the wires on this thing are not even very long, 3 millimeters according to Musk.
How long would these wires be?
They usually go in like 2 or 3 millimeters.
So they're not even going to reach the target area. You run into the same issues trying to treat the sleep disorders that Musk mentions. Sleep regulation is shared by the hypothalamus and the thalamus, well out of reach of his device. And just in case you're unaware, mucking around in your parietal lobe can cost you your senses as well as your ability to speak or even understand language. Curing schizophrenia is another claim that Musk makes, and again, this requires deeper penetration of the brain than this device allows for, because you're targeting the basal ganglia. There are deep brain stimulation probes available for these extreme cases, but they are, as you would expect, not a starting point for treatment. If medication and psychotherapy options have been exhausted, then you might be considered a candidate for open brain surgery, but not before. And as for restoring memory in aging patients, as Anderson would sign up for, or so he says, there's absolutely no reason to believe this device can make good on that promise either. Further, memories are a function shared by the amygdala and the hippocampus, and guess where they're located? Now here is why making promises like Musk is doing is so dangerous.
The emails that we get at Neuralink are heartbreaking, where someone was in the prime of life and they had an accident. He was 25, can't even feed themselves. This is something we could fix.
Online, you can find many human candidates volunteering for this procedure. There are polls online where between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3 people would willingly risk getting lobotomized for one of these just because Musk is attached to the company. But let's take the example Musk uses. 20-something got in a car wreck, now he can't feed himself. Musk says flat out, this is something we could fix. He does not say, this is something we might be able to fix. If this person is a dedicated fanboy, he might opt out of proven surgery or other recovery avenues, holding out for this completely unproven brain implant. These types of promises create false hope, and in a medical situation that could be potentially life-threatening. Then right after Musk says he could fix the car wreck victim, the disclaimer comes out.
I'm definitely not saying that this is going to solve everything. It's something that might be helpful.
Now he says he's not saying it's going to solve everything. Right after he listed off a whole bunch of things he said he was confident it could fix. At the Neuralink presentation, he said it was going to help solve everything from addiction to Parkinson's to tinnitus, while at the same time making people digitally immortal and superhuman. What Musk should be saying at this point of the product development is, I'm not saying this is going to solve anything at all. Least of all before they figure out how to not kill the monkeys, if they're even allowed to buy more monkeys to replace the dead ones they've had to throw away. Again, Musk says worst case scenario they'll figure out how to solve brain and spinal issues. Then Anderson jumps back in with this.
Best case scenario, we may discover a new human possibility, telepathy you've spoken of with a loved one, full memory, and much faster thought processing maybe.
Unbelievable as it seems, telepathy is one of the claims Musk makes about these brain chips. In May 2020, Musk was suggesting to Joe Rogan in episode 1470, it could be 5 years, possibly no longer than 10, before verbal communication between humans would give way to telepathy. This claim goes back to at least 2017, and it's one more thing that the scientific community is calling bullshit on. So it is absolutely embarrassing that this host is so blind to this nonsense. As we mentioned, this video was taken from a previously produced 5-part series called Debunking Elon Musk TED Talk 2022. This in-depth series takes on every question Musk was asked by the host, and we give you the facts to balance against the answers Musk provided on topics ranging from SpaceX and Mars to Tesla, Neuralink, the Boring Company, even his childhood claims, and his declaration of having Asperger's. It is information everyone should know and share. Here are the links to the first episode in the series and the episode from which this segment was taken. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for notifications of future video releases from this channel. And you can support future productions through Patreon at patreon.com/thecommonsense skeptic.